males, females, and binary mailboxes. We're back with episode number 3 of the Operators Only podcast, and I'm your host, Cody Gilbert. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode number 3. This episode, we have our first guest, and I told you I'm not going after celebrities. I'm not going after big followings. This individual caught my eye. His work ethic is inspirational. Tonight we have Jonah Gilbo from Alpharetta, Georgia. He's 17 years old. 17 years old. Turns 18 next month, though. Don't worry about that. Owns his own land clearing, grading, and excavation business at that young of an age. But tonight, we're going to have a conversation with Jonah, pick his brain about his future and what he thinks about the construction industry. Let's dive into it. Welcome back to episode number 3 of the Operators Only podcast. I'm here joined with Jonah Gilbo from Alpharetta, Georgia. He's 17 years old, guys, which is absolutely insane. He owns his own land clearing, grading, and excavation business. What's up, Jonah? How are you, buddy?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thank you for having me, Cody. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for jumping on here. You're the first guest of the Operators Only podcast, by the way. I stated in a couple previous episodes, which I've only got 2, but I'm not going after people with big followings. I'm not going after celebrities. You being this young and doing this really caught my eye. It's very inspirational. And literally the last episode was all about the next generation doing blue collar work and not, depending on mommy and daddy to push them through. And I think I've seen some of your stuff on Instagram, and you got it going on, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. It's definitely been a low process, but it's something that's been enjoyable the whole time, so I want to trade it.
It's a good deal. So I got a couple questions we're going to start off with. We're going to figure out who Jonah Gilbo is and why he does what he does. Then we're going to get into some blue collar talk, if you're good with that.
Yeah, sounds good, yeah.
Good deal. All right, so question number 1, Jonah, who are you? How old are you? Do you go to school? Do you go to college? Are you going to college? And what's your hobbies aside from business?
So, I'm Jonah, 17, turning 18 coming next month. And I go to Cambridge High School, located in Millen, Georgia. And I do basically a bunch of stuff in my free time anywhere because it was weird. I started with coding in middle school and I ended out in the dirt world. So those two are polar opposites, and that happened. So started with coding. When I first was very, very little, I've always had a knack for firefighting or construction. So when I was, I want to say maybe 5, I remember watching Bob the Builder. I would go to Walmart, rent all the little new movies and stuff that they would put out, watch all the stuff. And I remember seeing all these different machines and all these different things, just being super interested in it, right? But there's always one thing that stuck out to me. If you watch Bob the Builder, there's the backhoe, character in the series. So I always, like watching the crane and whatnot, but I always had a second, just a different feeling for that backhoe. And now that the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. I ended up in the dirt world, and the backhoe was kind of, I guess, the foreshadowing for it. So that ended up happening. I started my company back in 2021 in April. And ever since then, it's kind of been a learning process, but definitely been something that's been enjoyable at parts, but something, again, like I said, I want to trade. I played football, I just finished my last season. And then just getting ready for the transition, planning on going Georgia Southern, getting a civil engineering degree. I want to say I'm going to work for a company, getting out of college for like maybe a year or 2 to kind of see how it is, but can't say that for sure because I'm really set on taking this to the moon once I graduate college.
It's good, man. That's what I was going to ask. Well, I got a couple questions, actually. First, when you started this business at such a young age, number 1, how did you do it? What drove you to do it? And do you think we'll start with that? I got a second question, but we'll start with that one.
Yeah. So when I was, like I said, I was all into computers and everything in middle school, but I still had that love for construction in the back of my neck. So I remember I had downloaded this game called Farming Simulator, and I was like, I learned like a decent amount about the game, and I realized you could download mods, and that allows you to add your different, machinery, different things to make the game more enjoyable for the user. So I realized you could download mods. I'm like, holy crap. So I took advantage of that. I went on the internet. I'm like, excavator mod for farming simulator. I saw an excavator. I'm like, awesome. Let's go ahead and download this and see how this goes. So I downloaded the excavator mod. I went ahead and realized that if I want to make this as realistic as possible, I need to see if I can find myself some joysticks. So I remember one on Amazon. I bought cheap joysticks for like $9 a piece, heavily used, like 2008 type deal joysticks. They're obsolete. Tried using it with my computer, didn't work. So I'm like, dang. So go ahead and bit the bullet, spent $35 on some flight sim joysticks, and it was amazing from there. So that allowed me to, I guess, get my experience, which is completely opposite of what people would do. So I was sitting in front of a screen operating machinery while most people get their experience out in the field. But we kind of start to see that shift nowadays with technology and all that whatnot. But yeah, so I started using that simulator to my advantage, got 2 joysticks and just went crazy. I remember I was checking the stat the other day. I think I had 428 clocked hours just on that game alone, just practicing. And there were 3 different versions of that game that I had installed. So just on that one, I think it was 2017 that I had installed, I had almost 430 hours on it. So spent time on different machines. Obviously the controls were straight joysticks. So it was weird. I operated Dozer with excavator joysticks, which was kind of different, but still got the little hang of it. So did that all the way up until I want to say about 8th, 9th grade. I kind of took a break from all computers and just kind of shifted everything to the high school transition from middle school. And then from there, my sophomore year came. And then that's when I was talking to one of my buddies, and I realized he actually owned his own company at a young age too. So I'm like, hey, I reached out to him, like, hey, his name is Brody. I'm like, hey, Brody, is there like any openings, or like, how did you get into this? And we were just going back and forth. He was like, my uncle owns a company, and just kind of took off from there. But I don't really do much with my company. I kind of just work on the side, with helping him. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. And that was around September 2020. So spring of 2020 rolls around, or excuse me, spring of 2021 rolls around. And I'm sitting, chilling at home, just doing my regular night routines, watching Netflix, doing nothing. And then I get a text from Brody. He's like, hey, I got a job out in Roswell and I need you to come run an excavator. Can you do that for me? And this is the first time I operated. So I'm like, holy crap, I'm going head over heels. I'm like, there's no way I just got an offer to, operate machinery, let alone an excavator. Most people start off with a skid steer, haul truck in their first time. But I'm like, an excavator? So that happens. And I'm like, yeah, I can go ahead and do that. So I go out there to the job. We do some small backyard job. He puts me on a Kubota, like, what was this, like a 071-3 or something like that, some small Kubota. And I'm going crazy. I'm having fun, having the time of my life. We were just trying to rake off some topsoil and some bamboo. So I was just going around the property, the backyard, just raking everything. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm actually pretty good at this. I knew I could do it, but just kind of seeing it in real life and almost seeing a seamless transition, because that was one thing that really surprised me. And I know it surprised me, like the way it surprised me is because I know a lot of people can't do it when they first really hop into the machine. I was doing a jump turn on the excavator, and I was like, wow, I actually did that pretty well. So I'm like, okay, so I'm pretty good at this in real life. That's pretty good. So I'm like, we finished the job, everything goes well. And I'm like, hey guys, let me know if you ever need any help or whatnot. They're like, yeah, for sure. And I kept going home, like, I got to keep doing this. Like, I can't sit around and, hope that they have more openings. I got to take some initiative here. And if I want to do this, I got to jump on it. So I started my company, JMG Grading. That was the first name. Before I got any licensing, anything done, I named it JMG Grading for my initials. I'm like, okay, this is new. I was just trying to figure everything out. I knew the operating, I knew the field side, because I grew up watching a crap ton of YouTube videos. I mean, since I was in 6th grade, I'm pretty much, the last 6 years, I've been watching Let's Dig, operate his Volvos and all that good stuff. So I credit all my craft to him, I guess, and everything I learned. Just also different people, Dirt Perfect. There's a whole list I could go on for days about, but I got all my field experience from YouTube. Now it's more of, all right, so how do I do the business side? How do I do the marketing? How do I do all that, stuff in itself? So we're at this point, we're kind of like the end of April. I had just got my certification in the mail from Georgia about my licensing, my LLC, getting everything, finalized. I'm like, all right, so this is starting to become a real deal. So I'm like, all right, so how do I start making this more efficient and all that good stuff? How do I start putting my name out there so I can get more and more, so I can start getting jobs? So at first, my older brother Joe's friend, he actually owned an excavation company, and he actually went to Georgia Southern as well. And he was telling me one way that he got started, and one way that actually helped him was Facebook groups. So I'm like, okay, worst thing that can happen is don't get any jobs. Left that square one where I am. So I post on Facebook, I make, a crappy logo, whatnot, post on Facebook, it goes by, nothing happens. I'm like, all right, whatever. I need to start. If I want to really be serious and get some jobs, I need to really start, putting some more work into this. So went in, took a little time, found a better logo, rebranded everything to Apex. Apex Excavation Clean was the first name that I had. Realized that, if I'm going to do this, I need to put more time and effort. So went into full on Apex, got that license, and went on Facebook and branded everything. My first job that I ever got was a dry well project. I don't know if a lot of people know what that is. It's basically where you have a hole in the ground, 8 by 10 or by 10 feet, so 8 feet by 10 feet by another 10 feet of depth. So you do that. You line the sides in fabric, put 57 stone in it, and then have all your downspouts run into that dry well, and it will just basically it's a smaller version of what you would see with those advanced retention ponds that they put under these big buildings now with the yellow things or whatever. So
kind of like a French drain, I guess.
Yeah, essentially correct. So did that. That went all right. I was still trying to learn the ropes, and for me, really not having experience for working with a company, this first couple of jobs I had were rough. I mean, that first job, I just remember I had planned everything horribly. So there was two parts to this project. It was the drywall and the grading. We had to do the grading and the drywall. I remember I had split up into 2 weekends. I had a Bobcat 650 from Home Depot rented. Used that for the grading part, and I used that machine for that first weekend, and then I brought an excavator in the second weekend to do the drywall. And as I look back and I'm like, wow, I did that completely reverse of what it should have been done. So I remember when I dug out that drywall with the excavator and held that left over there, and I'm like, all right, so I have a stockpile now. I'm going to need to spread it out, but I'm also going to need to move that material because they had brought a truckload of 57 stone and dumped in the front yard because there was no access to the back. So I had to track each bucketful of stone to the back with a little small 57 skid steer. And my gosh, did I get annoyed. I mean, I was out there for 3 days between digging, spreading the fill, and then laying that stone in that hole and putting all the materials in and all that good stuff. So that was a task in itself. I'm like, wow, there's got to be a different way. And I was so naive at the time. I didn't know. I just did it completely backwards of what it should have been done. So that was my first project. Fast forward a little bit, I get into another project. This one actually went really well. I had got a project up in Cumming, Georgia. I had to do a backyard clearing. And so what needed to be done is this guy basically had some briars and whatnot just shriveled up in his backyard. And after they had got it, clear cut it with some trees. So went back there, cleared it, put everything in the dumpster, had a little bit of leftover material, tossed in the burn pit, burned it. It was actually kind of funny. That day I burned was the last day of Georgia, because Georgia has a burn ban. So you can't burn in certain counties all throughout the year, whatever. So that day I burned was actually the cutoff day for that burn ban. So I got pretty lucky with that. But so I burned all that material, used all the material I used from that hole, saw the dirt and fill, whatever. I used that to spread back on top, kind of help get a new regrade on that yard. Finished that job and went really well. That was one of my first projects. And at the time, I don't know anything about numbers. I don't know anything about how I should be pricing jobs properly. So at this time, I'm going out and pricing jobs daily and by machinery. So I remember renting that machine. I had rented a mini excavator and a skid steer, TLA and a TB260. That was about $1,700 for the day, or for the 2 days I had for the weekend. And then I priced my labor just $500 a day, because I'm like, I guess that's good money for me to make, for the work I'm doing. So that rolls around, and then I'm like, okay, I think I'm getting this, and they're starting to get the hang of this. And then I get another job out in Canton, Georgia, which is right next to Cumming, and it's a house lot. And I'm like, I'm really excited because I've seen different YouTube videos. I've watched different YouTube videos. Like, I can do this. I know how to do this. It was just like I was going with full confidence. And sidebar here, for anyone that's just now starting off, or anyone that's going to do, grading, excavation, land clearing, Cody came to vouch for me. Having confidence that you can do that job takes you a long way. If you are going to that job shaky, please do not take it. You will put yourself in the bind. You have the option to pass on that job to the next person. Don't take it if you're uncertain. You will ruin your name. I've seen it happen. It's not worth the time. So going back, start that house lot project. I'm ready to do it. And I get out there and just, it didn't feel right. I go out there on a Friday. I remember this. I go out there on a Friday afternoon, just before I had to go to my brother's wedding. I'm looking over the project. I'm like, okay. And I'm going everything with the client, looking at all the plans he has sent me. And it's basically just a slab. It's like a standalone house and a standalone garage up on a hill. And so we had to create a notch into the hillside to create the pad. And so I'm like, okay, not anything I can't handle. So I go out there the following week, because that school had gotten out. So I was able to work, full-time Monday through Friday. So I go through I want to say, was it Tuesday? Or I go through Tuesday. Machine gets dropped off around lunchtime. The client's not happy. And kind of backtrack, so I got to mention this. I did one of the worst things you can do. If you ever go out to a job, never, ever, ever give a ballpark, no numbers on that first time looking at a job. Never. Because they will come back and bite you. They'll be like, well, you told me this number and now you don't want to lose the job. You're like, all right, I'm gonna have to fit into that budget somehow, and you're just gonna screw yourself over. So I told the guy $3,000. I'm just gonna say all the numbers for this job so people can learn. I told him $3,000 for machinery, labor, and let's see what else. And fuel and all the other crap. So, and you also have your insurance, but that's already accounted for. So paid all that, or bidded. I told the guy, I'm like, yeah, 3,000 should work in my head, but I'm really not thinking about all the things that are going to come and play in a factor down the pipeline. And he was kind of like a pushy client, but I didn't really. Then I tried to see past it. So I'm like, all right, maybe it's just how people are in this industry. I don't know. So come Tuesday, like I said, I come in with an excavator. I got put in a culvert, so I ran a little mini excavator again, that TB260 from the same company. Put in a culvert for the driveway because it was a ditch, got everything graded, and just ready for the erosion crew to come and put sill fence and fabric and stone. So they come in on a Wednesday, do all that. I come back on a Thursday and I rent a TL12. So I'm like, okay, this machine has enough butt behind it. I can really put a dent in this project. And I was planning on being on this project for 2 days, and I should have been on this project for 2 days, but the way I mismanaged my time and machinery, it just kind of screwed me over. With the machine getting dropped off late, that really didn't help me at all. And me, taking a 3-foot wide bucket down a 20-foot wide driveway down maybe like 50 feet took almost 4 or 5 hours to do, which is ridiculous. So that put me in a bind that first day. And then I was expecting that rental company to come the next morning, pick up that machine. Turned out that machine was still there for almost, how long was it there? It was there for like an extra day. So that was the day I could have used that machine because I still had half a day of time left on it because they give you about 8 hours on a machine before you have to but they charge you extra. So I had 4 hours left I could have been using to help strip that topsoil on that house pad, which ate up again half my day in that TL12. So TL12 gets there around 8 o'clock that morning. I get out there, start stripping topsoil, and I get way too into stripping topsoil. It's hard to explain, but I spent a half a day stripping topsoil on a 10,000 foot square foot area, which is way too long. Get that happens. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be interesting. So after lunch, I come back, start cutting, making everything balanced. And this is where I really messed up. I heard Chris let's say this a bunch. I'm like, okay, maybe I can say it'll work. So I didn't have a grade stick I had a grade stick that first day, but I thought that was good enough on my third job that I could eyeball a house pad grade without a laser level. So that put me in a bind. The house pad was almost 2 feet off from one corner to the other. That job was a mess. Ended up barely breaking even on that job, almost $500 even on that job, and just got all that wrapped up and just put that behind me. And I was like, that put a little scar on me too. I was like, I don't know if I can handle this. Then a week or two goes by, I'm like, I'm ready to get back into this. And that's how I knew. I was like, I love this. I'm not going to change this for the world. So I go ahead, get back into it. And one job in particular helped me, revamp everything, kind of change the way I do jobs and how I price them and how I go about them. So I got a job for a 21-acre clearing.
21 acres.
21 acres, yeah. It was actually total 40 acres, but only 21 had trees on it needed to be cleared. So only bid it at 21. And funny enough, that company ended up going bankrupt. But
lucky for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I just bid at that job for fun. I didn't get it, didn't plan on getting it. And then if I did, I wasn't going to take it. I quoted it at, I think it was like $43,000 or $148,000, something like that, some crazy number. And that was with machinery and everything out the gate and labor. And I was still a little wishy-washy how I wanted to do my labor, but I was going through doing research. Like the best thing I could recommend for anyone, me being in my second year of business, I recommend joining a Facebook group and just getting insight from other people that are already out there because they have a bunch. Even reaching out to people that you may like see doing, you can reach out to a small company. And if you want to work for them, that's probably the best thing you can do because it'll save you literally that 4 or 5 month period that I had a hard time starting this company. I probably could avoid it if I worked for a company. I started getting my pricings and everything. I feel like the internet, Facebook. So I think I had $3,000 was my land clearing, and I had like grading set at per square footage and all that stuff. I was doing per acre, per square footage for labor. And then I actually went on Excel and made my own spreadsheet on how I wanted to price jobs with, materials, machinery, all that good stuff. This is a good start. I think I'm doing this right for the first time. So got all my pricing and everything adjusted to I think would break out even because a lot of these guys are pricing jobs without, the factor of rentals because most of you guys own equipment. So I'm going to have to adjust my numbers to where I can still bid on a job and still compete with my competition while having rental prices because that's going to be significantly higher than the, payment that guy's going to have. And that fine medium between labor and making a profit and, still finding, still having the ability to compete with other guys. So my numbers were set a little bit low, but again, had worked out in the end because I don't have a family that's dependent upon me right now. And, I'm living rent free. So this is a good time for me to be able to, get these baby steps going. So that happened. And I'm like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to start completely fresh. So I changed my whole business name, motto, lingo, everything. So I changed it to Apex Land Clearing Development because I realized land clearing was my cup of tea and I was really, really good at that. So now, as currently and probably forever, Apex Land Clearing and Development is going to be the final done deal. Now we service mass and minor land clearing, mass and minor forestry mulching, and minor excavation, grading, and demolition. So those are all of our services that we provide as of right now.
You said mulching?
Yeah, forestry mulching, correct.
I got a question while we're here.
Mm-hmm.
I've never used a mulcher before on a job.
Yeah.
But I'm getting one Monday. We're renting one, actually.
Oh, nice.
You're sitting here talking about all this renting, this and that. I've been there, done that. I thought renting in my mind when we first started our business, I thought, why don't, we need all this stuff because we was taking on some pretty big jobs and we wasn't quite equipped, right out of the gate. And I thought, why don't we rent some equipment? We don't have to service it. That's not coming out of our pocket. And when we're done with it, we just send it back. And that's not a, payment that keeps eating, while it sits there, we don't have work for it or, something tanks. For you, being young like you are, renting equipment, I think is perfect the way you work. For us, renting equipment ate us alive, dude. It was insane. But that was completely besides the point of what I was going to ask you about the mulching. Do you have a mulching head, I guess, for an excavator?
So thank God Yancey rents all their attachments for mulching head machinery that opts for mulching head. So the only time that we really need to use one. So for example, we had a retention pond clearing that we needed to do, and it wasn't worth pulling out all that shrub and briars and trying to put it in the dumpster. That's like at least $15,000 extra what it should have been. So we just decided to just mulch everything. And so being able to have CAT and have that ability to do that saves us a ton because mulchers in itself are already expensive, and the maintenance of them too, even renting them is a task. Because I remember when we first rented our first one, I had to go out and buy a Milwaukee Impact and a grinder so I could keep the knives on it sharp, because if you don't, it's going to get dull and you're going to get a bad product, and that's bad rep. So
in Georgia, I know like North Carolina here, everything's different for like erosion control purposes and stuff. Here in North Carolina, like sometimes we do like clearing and like digging basements and stuff on lake lots, like near the open water, freshwater sources. And they say that if we have like a mulching head and we like mulch trees down, we can leave it laying on the ground and it acts as silt fence for erosion control. Is that the same thing in Georgia?
Yeah, so that's one thing that we really like recommending for someone that has a property but they don't know what they want to do with it yet. So to get the city and everyone off their back, we just tell them, let's go ahead and just mulch it. It acts as an erosion cover, and the city's not gonna be on your back about having to keep silt fence up and maintained and all that good stuff. So it's the same in Georgia, and it's one of the main reasons we like servicing it, because it's one of the more ideal options for the customer. But
yeah,
as you probably already heard, force and motion is becoming so saturated with so many newbies trying to get in because it's so profitable. Everyone wants to do it, and everyone thinks that they can do it. So it kind of is squeezing a lot of these guys out. Because I was going on Facebook the other day, some dude was advertising like $125 an hour for a forestry mulcher. I was like, wow, let me just go ahead and sit back and watch. So those are the guys that we come and clean up behind. So it works out in the end, but it sucks for the client.
I get my first go at it Monday. We could clear it because we have the stuff to do the job like normally as we would do it, but we have a machine that is kind of just sitting there. I don't know if I'm sure you follow me, and you've seen the Sani that we had. The engine blew up on it. We had it rebuilt and all that stuff, and now it's kind of sitting there. Everything's good. Everything works great, but we have that Cat 317 now, and that Sani is just kind of sit over there and watch the big boys run. We're thinking about buying a mulching head and putting it on the Sani and keeping it on the Sani, but we're renting one for a couple of jobs we got just to see how it goes. And it's obviously, we're not going for the profit side of it because the rent on this thing, it eats the profit away, but we're just kind of experimenting and kind of seeing, is this going to make us,
more profitable,
quicker? Yeah,
more efficient. And mulching is definitely like one of the good things to get your foot in the door for land clearing. One big thing that I can give out for a tip is use float if you're going to use it on a skid steer. It can save you a lot of time. It really gives out a good product too, so you don't have to be so nitpicky with the controls there.
Oh, you said float, like
the float function.
Set it down and just float it, and it just.
So if you back over a stump, it's not going to block your machine down if you're back dragging. So that's one thing that can really be a good tool that I found. But so we do forestry mulching and all that good stuff now. And let's see, we're at the end of 2021, I believe, is where I left off. We're just kind of getting everything. I'm trying to get everything wrapped up for the year, just getting ready for next year, see what everything holds. So let's see, February comes around. Facebook is the phone is ringing. I mean, my Google page has the phones ringing. Facebook has my marketplace is blowing up, and it's just like a great time. So I'm like, all right, let me really sit down, really focus, and really do a good job here so I can really correct and kind of make up for what happened last year. So
we'll take a side path real quick. I got a question. All right. So you're in high school during all this, correct? Just a quick detour. How are you managing and completing all this work while you're in school? That takes some. I hated school, number one. You said you had strict parents that really, was on you about school and all that. How do you manage all this?
I wish I could have a definite answer. I want to say my drive for this company has driven me to kind of, let me get this done because I know what's sitting out the end of the tunnel. So I can get all my schoolwork done now, and I just don't procrastinate. And it's not like I didn't have the time, Yes, I wanted to work on Apex, but it's not like I was working full time to where I had an excuse not to do schoolwork. And so I realized, all right, if I really want to make myself or something, I need to do the stuff that I don't like now, because when it happens later, I'm going to be it's not going to be a bad habit to skip the stuff I don't like. For example, if I get a job I don't like and there's a little bit more extra steps to it, and I don't take it just because there's extra steps, me doing that schoolwork, if I would have done that schoolwork, could have, helped me want to take that job more, if that makes sense. So it's just kind of building good habits. And like I said, it's not like I didn't have the time. So something I had to prioritize. And I knew my end goal, which was trying to at least get a GED and get a civil engineering degree as well. So I knew if I wanted to even come close to that, I needed to get a high school education at the bare minimum and do what I need to do. So yeah.
That's crazy. I see that flag behind your head. You said something about firefighters.
Yeah. So I always wanted to be a firefighter when I was little. And so I remember, I can't remember when I got that flag. I want to say maybe my 8th grade freshman year, I got that thin red line flag. And on my Google like page or my Google account for my personal one, it's actually the skull with the red line going through it. So I always had a special place in my heart for firefighting, but realized that there's some stuff that I just don't think I'm going to be mentally tough enough to handle if I were a firefighter. So, and I was
I
actually
did it
watching,
for
yeah, I
I did it
remember
for
watching
12
that podcast
years.
yesterday or the other day for the second episode. You were telling me about that. And I was like, yeah, maybe it's just, it's
You're,
definitely an interesting career path, but I don't think it was for everybody for sure.
now there's a lot of cleaning toilets and mopping bay floors and checking trucks out, but when it gets down to the nitty gritty, dude, there was stuff that I seen that I never wanted to see that I didn't. I mean, I wasn't even prepared for that. I thought I was supposed to be like super cool guy with a radio, you know, and just go fight fire. But then you go see, I don't
Body,
even want to, I don't know, even YouTube will let me say this, but I went to one call. This is the one that did it for me. I was 18 years old. I was paid firefighter for, I'm not, I'm no longer on that department anymore, but I was paid firefighter by myself. We get a call for burns. I get to the call, and this mother has boiled water in a pot on her stove, boiling bottles for her kid. The baby reaches up and grabs the handle and pulls the water on top of it. When I get there, they got the baby in a cold bathtub, you know, full of water, and their skin floating on top of the water. I was done, dude. That was it. I was over with. Never, I couldn't do it. And that's at that point, I was burnout. And that's just when I kind of
down.
slowly drifted into what I'm doing now.
That's like, because I knew I did a ride along with my local fire department here, and I did that my freshman year. And I'm kind of glad I didn't get any, like, I wanted to get calls, but like I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I didn't know if, especially being that young, if I was gonna be able to handle some of the stuff that I would have seen. And I feel like one of the main reasons I fell in love with firefighting too was just like I love, it's weird, but I love the way the rigs like look and build. Like Pierce,
Mhm.
they make some insanely good rigs, and I just always fell in love with the look of them. And I think that was one of my main reasons that was pulling me into it. I love helping people too. If you could ask anyone, you know, if you knew anyone that I knew, they would tell you I love helping them too. And that's just something that comes with, you know, I guess I won't say it's genetics, because my dad actually works in the medical field, and my mom went from the medical field to you know, more finance. So I think it was just bound to happen for me to have that, I guess, gene. But I don't think I would have been prepared, like you said, because on a call like that, I would have just been, wow, hands off and just backed up. Walk away. I don't,
One thing I learned from being a fire, like doing all that at a young age, like normally, like most kids, like I don't know if you are, I can see that you've got a pretty good head on your shoulders, but you know, me and my buddies get together, we're gonna go act a little stupid, do something dangerous, do something that's probably not, you know,
smart.
needing to be done. Yeah, something smart. Seeing how fragile humans are in that scenario, seeing how fragile and how quick things can happen. And I mean, dude, there was stuff that I can't even start to tell you. I don't even want, I mean, there's stuff that I've seen that I forgot I've seen, and I'm probably glad that I forgot I've seen it. But there is some stuff that sticks with me. And it's not like I got PTSD or nothing, but it's definitely when I close my eyes, I can still see it, and I'll never forget it. But my point is, I think at a young age, it showed me how fragile we are as humans and how precious, precious, precious life is. And as I got older, you know, I got married, I have a son now. I slowed down a lot. You know, I'm young. I'm 27 years old, but I don't do near what I used to do. And I take my time. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, like everyone's like, come on, big boy, get after it. And I'm like, nah,
Nah.
I don't want to die. I'm good.
More patience, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So that's definitely one great asset to have with you, is just
Yeah.
appreciate life in itself and just not take anything for granted, because everything can be honest, it's not.
I want to hop back to a question
Yeah.
because I've always thought of this.
Mhm.
So, as you know, maybe you know, I don't know if you know or not, Caterpillar, they have, I don't, and I'm sure it's more than just Cat, but they have operator simulators. Have you seen those?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I know Coupon Grading, it has like a whole trading center like dedicated to.
Hoopaw is here where I live. They're
Oh,
not far
really?
from me. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we bought that 317, and there's a guy named come out from Caterpillar named Cornbread. We call him Cornbread. His name's Adam. But he was telling me he's taken over like a training sector of Caterpillar, and they're going to have all these, simulators and stuff. And I've always wondered, and you was talking about, Farm Sim, and you bought those joysticks. And I know that the feel of a machine in real life versus that is completely different. But I feel like in my mind, if you can get the aspect of the controls down for the machine, did that correlate really good with you? Like, you said you was doing Farm Sim, you had 400 hours, and then you went to that help your friend with that job. Did it correlate? I mean, when you felt it in real life, did
Oh
it?
yeah, I mean definitely. I mean, obviously there's gonna be some features that you feel if you like slam your bucket down, it's gonna jolt you more than
Yeah.
playing the simulator. But yeah, there's definitely like one of the great things about simulators I really, really love, and one of the main reasons why I'm glad that it's starting to get introduced more to our market is because it has an ability. You can dedicate a rainy day, you can dedicate a whole, training facility like Hoopod does to just getting people right and really building this industry. And so without having to actually take away from your production, all that good stuff, with actually having to put someone in the machine and test them, if you were even just to test them during lunch, you don't have to waste someone's time like that. You can just send them to a training facility. If they're really interested, they will take the time and go out on a Saturday or even on a rainy day. If they want to like just do nothing, they will take their time out of their day to go into that training simulator and practice. Just getting that feel experience, just knowing what each control does and just doing all that stuff really such a long way. I know I had a buddy that just was trying to operate a skid steer for me the other, like back in September, and he was just him getting the feel already helped a lot. I mean, just within the hour, seeing him do that, like from start to where he got, it's just insane. If you could dedicate more time and more money, Bill Witt talks about a lot, investing into your people. If you can invest into your people and dedicate more of your own company's time to building your company's future, it's not even close to what the profit could even come close to. It pays for itself within maybe the first 6 months, if not less.
You're gonna go far, dude. I can already tell you that. The way you intake content and the way you quote it and the way you take, like, you just like from Built With. Like, I've actually met Aaron in real life. He come
Oh,
to
really?
one of my job sites. He wasn't, shooting for us, but he was, and there was another company that he was shooting for, but we kind of got to hang out. But just the way you quote and the way you intake content, and you have very good morals, I can tell. I've never met you in my life. I've talked to you on Instagram, but you're going to go super far. And that's what I want to ask you. This is leading into my next question, a little segue here. Do you have a full ride to college, or are you paying for that tuition?
So my parents have money set aside, but I'm not gonna let them spend that money on me. I've always, if I have the assets to myself, I'm not gonna let someone else do something for me. It's just not right. So right now I have money being like set aside for me to be able to pay for my college. I want to be able to pay for originally what that money was going to be set aside for was going to be my work truck, trailer, and down payment for a skid steer. But I'm going to scrap all that. I was thinking about that today. I'm going to scrap all that and just going to put all that to college and just get that paid for. And then, like I said, it'll just pay for itself in the end. I'll have my own degree. I'll have the ability not to have to worry about debt and everything. But I'm not going on a full ride. But I'm glad I'm not going on a full ride because I get to appreciate things more, if that makes sense.
Do you feel like college is going to correlate well with? So before we go into that, is Apex your end goal, or are you going to?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When I graduate college, if I end up working for like C.W. Matthews, one of the biggest, horizontal firms in the Southeast, is like right in my backyard. So if I want to go work for them out of the gate for like 2 years, I'll do so just to kind of get the whole civil engineering thing under my feet. And, I can get some confidence working for a good company and have some good mentors behind me. That's one of if I do that, I want to be opposed to it. And that's definitely something I'm really heavily considering. It's just a matter of just how everything happens. Cause like I have a general plan of how I want everything to happen with Apex, ultimately being the end goal, but life throws obstacles at you every day. So that could change in a matter of like a minute. So just having that general idea, gives me the right footing, but you can never really predict what's going to happen in the end. But yes, I do want to have Apex as my end goal.
I just want you to know, for a little bit of advice, you're talking about going to a larger company or whatever. Mm-hmm. Just know that it is a completely different ballgame, dude. And the reason I know is, so I started in a big company, and I thought, starting my own thing was going to be a cakewalk. I was like, I've done it all. I've seen it all. I've moved all this dirt. I've graded all this with the GPS dozer. I've seen all these plans. Completely different ball game. There's really no plans when it comes to residential grading. Really, I mean, technically,
Yeah,
it's
there is.
all. Yeah, you just kind of you talk to the homeowner. I want this, and you're like, okay, well, let's go
Try.
see if we can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a
Yeah.
completely different ball game. I'm so used to go like 349 Fs and like 336s moving dirt, 740 off-road trucks, big D8 bulldozers pushing dirt. I'm used to that. And then you come over here with like little excavators, skid steers, stuff like that. It's a completely different ball game, and I'm still getting used to it now. But
Yeah.
just for future reference, if you go to a big company, just expect there's a lot more politics, way more rules. You're used to being able to do your own thing. You go there, like the last company I worked for, no cell phones. I was like, dude, my wife's pregnant, and like I got my phone. Sorry, fire me. You can fire me right here if you want to. I got yelled at for making a TikTok video. It's a lot more political. And the safety guy was like, I'm going to walk around and stomp everybody's feet and make sure you have safety toed or steel toed shoes on. I was like, stomp on my foot. Let's see what happens. It's strict, dude. I don't know how this company you're talking about it is, but the one I worked for, that's how it got to. And everyone that I worked with then has left that company, and they're all dispersed somewhere else. So,
yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I never really thought about too. And the more the more you talk about, more it would make sense that a company would be doing stuff like that. But it's just that's crazy. I can't even wrap my head around that. Just some of the rules that they have. I mean, I would get some of like your basic rules and such, like you probably already know, like safety helmets, whatever, hard hats and whatnot best. But just like the whole stomping and everything, and there was a line that gets succeeded there, and the no phones too. That's just even worse. I want to say I'm guessing that was a family-owned company.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's one of the downsides, I guess, too. They have their own morals that they want to follow too. So
that's the problem, though. It's supposed to be, and when they say family owned and operated and whatnot, it literally is. Like, it's generations and I mean, they're a huge company. Like, they got a lot of zeros in the bank, like a lot. Probably they've got more money in the bank right now than I'll probably ever make in my life. But the thing is, there was like, and I love them. I still love the people to death. Don't get me wrong. And it's not them, but it's people that maybe have been put in charge that probably shouldn't have been where they were placed. But it was, you were supposed to be treated as family, and you never was treated as family. So that's exactly why me and my dad did what we did. And we're literally going to treat our employees like family. Like, we don't want to get above a certain amount of people. Like, you see these big companies and stuff. We can see that. I think we've done that. That's what we're used to doing. But I think we want to stay, below, 20 max employees. That's still bigger. Okay, I'm going to say 12. I'll back it up. Say 12. 12 employees around that, and maybe 2 jobs, 3 jobs max at one time, and keep it to where you're not a number. You're literally, we know you, you know what's going on. Literally family oriented company. That's what. And if you want to go work for somebody, if let's say Apex don't work out, and I think it will, I know it will, actually. I can tell by the way you carry yourself that it's going to work out. But let's say it don't work out. That's the first thing you need to look for, is a family oriented company, if I have any advice to give to you.
So, I mean, like you said, with it being such a big company, that's one thing I've always been concerned with. And that's one of the main reasons why I just don't even want to consider working for a company. I don't want to be a number. But that also falls onto the hands of the actual executive board and team in that company, so the higher ups. How can they conduct and how can they make their company more a family like, and how can they change that culture? Because that's one of the ultimate goals of what draws people in. I was scrolling on one Facebook groups like heavy equipment operators, and a lot of these companies just seem like they're not going to really care about the employees that they're hiring. They just need to get people in so they can keep themselves moving. It's more of like, how can I keep myself moving, and how can we keep ourselves moving? So that's one thing these bigger companies need to consider. It's just how can we present ourselves to where we can get work done, but we can also be there in the time, in the calls matter for an employee, no matter how big you get. I don't care if that means you have to get a whole another department and just dedicate a people's department. Like, it wouldn't be an HR thing, but it'd be a little bit more like a culture oriented HR for a company, for a big company. And maybe a lot of money, but you got to think, what's the return out of that? Long term, if I want to get more employees and keep generating more positive growth for my company, would it be worth, spending X amount of dollars to keep X amount of people around? So that's one of the things that these companies need to consider for sure.
You said you did coding, right?
Correct.
I could see you working for Aaron Whip. If you did coding and all that good stuff, and you're young, the way you carry yourself, you could be working for Build Whip.
I would, but I need to be either in a seat or I need to be in a desk looking at plans. I can't be just. I love being around it, but I've been around it way too much. I remember they were building They were building a housing development right across from my old neighborhood where I used to live. And I would actually go out because it was in the summer when they had started it. I would go out every single morning at like 8 a.m. as soon as I woke up, toss on some slides and go out to the side fence and just watch them do what they would do. I remember they were laying some storm, they were doing some clearing, they had a track loader, a couple of Komatsus and whatnot out there. I just remember watching, I was like, I can't be watching this for much longer. I'm going to drive myself crazy. I need to be involved somehow, some way, no matter how that is. I need to be either. I don't want to say I either want to be a laborer all the way up to the guy that's quoting jobs. So anywhere in between would be perfect. But being a bigger boss too is nice because you get a little bit of everything.
Yep, absolutely. I appreciate you being on here.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. I hope you go far, and I think you will go far.
Thank you. It's praying every day. I actually got a job out in down the street from me to do some demolition, so we'll see how that goes. But every day holds a new surprise, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jonah, man, thank you so much for coming on the Operators Only podcast.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Cody. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, man.